It is also now my great pleasure to introduce to you the woman who has shepherded the Family Foundation as its president for more than 17 years, helping to shape it into one of the premier family organizations in this country. She brings the fight to the opposition. She is the sledgehammer breaking down liberal strongholds, and her work is the single biggest reason why Terry McAuliffe has second thoughts about stepping foot in Richmond again. She is the wife to Matt. She's the mother to 4 beautiful children. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mrs. Victoria Cobb.
My kids think I'm ancient. And as if they didn't already know this, our last gala confirmed it when I tried to explain to them that Kirk Cameron was a teenage heartthrob. He was like their Zac Efron. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when I came in here tonight to celebrate the Family Foundation's 35th anniversary, I kind of feel ancient. Now, not that I was there at the beginning, but I have to admit, I joined this organization at our 15th anniversary. Now, some of you, unfortunately, might even also feel even more ancient because some of you were here working on this with us long before I ever arrived as a 21-year-old intern. So I hope tonight that you are enjoying the celebration of the fruits of the labor of your time and talent and treasure that you have put into our collective mission. Now, technically, this is our 36th year at the Family Foundation, but we shouldn't skip celebrating our 35th anniversary just because our governor told us we couldn't gather. Now, rather than skip the gala, we probably simply should have told him that we were holding a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood. He would have said that he would have thanked us for our essential service, and he would have probably said something like this: "You can certainly bring 1,000 people here together for such a great cause as this, but don't worry, I'll just get you all the money you need in the state budget." Actually, the good news is that by skipping a gala, I can now actually count my galas by the number of years I've been employed at the organization. See, before we missed the 2020 gala, it didn't quite add up because I had actually participated in one gala as an intern. So now, 21 years, 21 galas, it's all good. But seriously, we figured better late than never. Better late than never to celebrate what God has done in and through this organization because of all of you. I am humbled and honored to work along such an amazing team that serves your families so well. The best part about our work is that because God's principles, his created order, are like the laws of gravity. They work whether or not you believe in them. Because of that, our organization gets to serve every family in Virginia. The principles work to benefit even those who don't believe in them. Just yesterday, I was told a story about a 10-year-old little girl whose father told her mom to abort her. And when the mom chose life, the father abandoned the family. This story is all too common. But that little girl and her mom moved back in with her grandparents, and she became her grandfather's reason to live, to battle through a lot of years of hard battling with liver cancer. Choosing life, even in the hard circumstances, never leads to regret. These principles help human flourishing among those who would even consider themselves our most ardent opponents. To me, that kind of feels an awful lot like loving our neighbor and turning the other cheek. At our last gala in 2019, we were on the precipice of the final domino falling that has led to a Virginia we hardly recognize, and that was the loss of the pro-family leadership of the House of Delegates. After that election, we licked our wounds, and some counted us out, kind of like the knockout punch had been delivered. I envisioned Rocky Balboa, bloodied, down on the mat after a blow so hard his head is spinning. You see, you know that part where it gets silent and it falls over the crowd because they're waiting to see what will happen next, I could almost hear our opposition counting to 10 to be deemed the victor. No power in the Virginia legislature? All that policy work grinding, screeching to an absolute halt? But then something happens. Then you look out into the distance in the proverbial stadium, and we see our loved ones, our children, and our grandchildren. They're looking with pain, watching, waiting to see if we'll get back up. They need a hero. And then it's like it's in slow motion. A chant comes in the distance. It's kind of like we can hear, Rocky, Rocky, Rocky. We can't help but rise. In that hard moment after the 2019 elections, we stood to our feet and looked at the depths of who we are as an organization. In that deep self-examination that comes with loss, I asked our team, what's next? Where do we go from here? And as you might suspect, out of one member of our team came some pretty powerful words. And I'm going to quote here. The Family Foundation is functionally the most direct, best known, and most visible instrument and purveyor of salt and light for God's truth to state and local governments. We are a primary and indispensable arm of the church and defender of Virginia families to our state. Above all, we are ambassadors of truth to those with the authority to prescribe law and wield the sword. Our principles, while universally beneficial to and empirically observable by all people, are ultimately a reflection of God's design stamped upon his created order, and thus provide the greatest opportunity for human and social flourishing. Consequently, our mission does not change as political circumstances change. Well, you heard it, folks. Our mission does not change regardless of political circumstances. So 35 years, 36 actually, of ups and downs, the high highs of seeing the abortion rate drop over 40%, and the low lows of seeing the Virginia Values Act passed and not being able to stop it, knowing that our beloved churches and Christian ministries face immediate threats of crippling financial penalties if they dare to demand that those employed in their ministries uphold the tenets of their faith. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." I think from the clear, unwavering perspective that you heard in the words of Josh Hetzler, our legislative counsel, you get a feel of the kind of stuff our team is made of. When I think about the strength of our team, the never die stuff that our team is made of, this random verse in Ezekiel actually comes to mind. Now, if you haven't read Ezekiel, it's a weird and kind of strange story of the faithfulness someone has to the call of God. Ezekiel has this amazing vision from God, and then he's told that he's going to prophesy to the people, and he knows it's going to be a tough message. But the great part is that in that moment, God tells him, he prepares him, and he tells him that he was made for this moment. Ezekiel 3:6 says this, "I have made your forehead like a diamond, harder than flint. Don't be afraid of them, and don't be discouraged by the look on their face, though they are a rebellious house." Even when the audience at the General Assembly is hard-hearted, this team works for an audience of one. So when the situation looked bleak, our team realized we had more to do, more than ever before. That's when the Capitol campaign that you just heard about in the video was birthed. We knew we had to reach the next generation. We knew we had to fight in the courts. We knew we had to have a greater impact in Northern Virginia. We knew we had to have a bigger voice at school boards. We knew we had to win elections. And we knew we had to improve our financial foundation to free up funds to do all of that. Before we even embarked on the campaign, we knew we had one huge asset, a wonderful building just blocks from the Capitol. Already, God had seen fit to move us out of a building where we were paying $130,000 of rent in a building that was home to left-wing senators, Kane and Warner and the Democrat Party of Virginia, and more. Now, there's never enough time on this stage to tell you all the ways that God made that happen. But one God-sized non-coincidence is the fact that we had exactly the 20% down payment for that building in a separate bank account we actually called the House Fund, because years before, a wonderful man named Jimmy Wynn had died and left his home to us in his will, and it sold for exactly that amount. But as we thought about that, what if we could pay down what we actually owed the bank for our building so we could have every dollar possible to put towards our mission rather than our mortgage? So we put the goal of paying $1 million down on our mortgage into the capital campaign so that $100,000 more a year could just go directly to our mission instead of overhead. With a building on firm foundation, we knew we had to build a commonwealth with a firm foundation. If Virginia struggles to elect men and women who understand religious freedom and value the fact that every human life is sacred, then we need to do more to change the hearts and minds of our friends and neighbors. Looking internally, one of the best ways the Family Foundation does this, one of the biggest impacts we have, is with our student programs. The more kids grow up with pronoun games on their Fruit Loops cereal box and rainbow colors embedded in their Oreos, the more we have to push back to teach them to reject sexuality and gender as a false god. Specifically, we knew that if we could live stream the content-rich discussions that we have in our Equip Worldview Academy, we knew we could help more young people form that unshakable, unmovable, firm foundation for both their faith and for civic engagement. This was one of the first initiatives accomplished in our capital campaign because one donor stepped up with a $50,000 gift, knowing how important this was, so we could immediately install cameras and screens and microphones, just what we needed. We've created a program where the young leaders of tomorrow are trained to challenge the lies, the progressive lies that they're going to face in college and beyond. When these kids go to the National Archives website to go read the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, and they see that they're hidden behind a harmful content trigger warning, these kids are going to be triggered to fight for the foundational freedoms our founding fathers secured for their futures. Looking back, it's amazing. Looking back, knowing that we mapped this out before we had ever even heard a term COVID, is God's whisper in our ears just perfectly on point? And it doesn't take much to know why we targeted Northern Virginia in our efforts. When parents have to read illicit texts out of their children's books at school, at the school board meetings to make their point, we know we have a problem. When school boards literally kick parents out of their meeting and bar the doors to avoid hearing from them, we know we have a problem. And when gym teachers get put on administrative leave because they simply went to the school board and shared the fact that they cannot participate in a lie to pretend that a boy can become a girl, we know we have a problem. There are just some areas of our Commonwealth that require our full-time attention. So into the capital campaign went a director of external relations for Northern Virginia. Again, we couldn't wait till the campaign was fully funded to get started. So Michael Leeser came to us with nearly 2 decades of work in conservative organizations up in DC and Northern Virginia, from the American Enterprise Institute to the Family Research Council to the Clapham Group. Since Michael has started with us, he has worked diligently to engage our supporters and potential supporters, allies and potential allies, on our issues in Northern Virginia and to expand our network there. Now it's Michael's job to help figure out what to say and what to do when the VP of Communications for Fairfax PTA says about those who oppose critical race theory, let them die. Now, he does all this with grace, empathy, good cheer, a tenacious devotion to our cause, and with the humility that comes from being a lifelong Philadelphia Phillies fan, something I happen to share, but I promise is not the reason that I hired him. Of course, in our comeback planning, we couldn't overlook the fact that if we didn't actually win back the governor's mansion, it was going to be awfully hard to break one-party rule in Virginia, liberal idea dominance in Virginia. So we took stock of our more political sidekick, the Family Foundation Action, and said it has to have a year-round election effort. If we're going to elect the first conservative statewide since 2009, yes, it has actually been that bad. We knew we needed an abnormal infusion of funds in the year 2021 if we were going to make that happen. Now, at the time, we didn't actually have our full lineup of candidates, but we kind of suspected our good friend, former Governor Terry McAuliffe, would be running. Now, we certainly didn't expect him to actually accidentally tell the entire world that he doesn't trust parents with their own child's education. But nevertheless, we set to work in January, talking to people who simply need that extra conversation to go out and vote pro-family. With still a month left in the election, Britton Ross and her team at the Family Foundation Action, filled with lots of students, have called over 170,000 Virginians, and 2 weekends ago, with this election, they have hit their 100,000th door in their knocking efforts. Now, on top of that, you just think about that number, on top of the work they did last year's election. As you heard in the video, they have knocked 200,000 doors. Britton, if you're in the room, would you stand and let us honor you? She's probably not, because she can't sit down very long, because she knocks all these doors. I don't know if she's, can you stand? Oh, there she is, Al's got her. All right, Al and Britton are our team. They're the ones that make this happen. But you know, it's not just election work that matters. You can't expect to build momentum and energy around principles and ideals, let alone a person, all at once. It's actually what happens leading up to that. Elections are a byproduct of what's been happening in a specific area long before you actually get the specific matchup. We knew that to push back liberalism, and now actually Marxism, we had to start at the local level, had to be organized for maximum impact, and had to translate outrage to actual election outcomes. Now, with the arrival of Candy Cushman, we created local speak-up teams, our radio and podcast shows, Speak Up Virginia, and even launched the Protect Every Kid campaign that you heard about in the presentation for tonight's award. Then we sat back and we evaluated the entire process of public policy to ensure that we were leaving nothing out, that there was nothing, no stone unturned. From the founding days of Walt Barbie, we've always fought in local school boards. Ever since the charisma and umph of Ann Kincaid, we've brought facts and stories to the General Assembly to make laws. When we had to, we even ran a statewide campaign to amend the Constitution to protect marriage. Under the days of Governor Bob McDonnell, we helped make recommendations for staff and for agency positions and boards. When battles like clinic safety erupted, we quickly became regulatory experts. Our Virginia Pastors Network is so engaged right now that we've actually met with over 300 pastors this year, and our team has been asked to speak directly to over 30 congregations. And of course, now when we come, we bring our voter guides. Now, it's not just voter guides and other accountability tools like report cards, but now we actually make phone calls, text, knock doors. And in 2019, we even held our first what has now become annual Virginia March for Life, where 7,000 people showed up to make their voices heard on the steps of the Capitol. But one thing was missing. When unconstitutional laws were passed, we were left hoping and praying someone would pick up the mantle in the judicial system. For a long time, Virginia had conservative attorneys general. After that, our friends at the Alliance Defending Freedom would right the wrong. But with Mark Herring on the loose as the liberal crusader, and delegates like Delegate Tran introducing things like birthday abortion, we were going to have to do more to help in the judicial system. So we drafted a blueprint of a law center. Now, we can thank the horrific legislation coming out of the Virginia General Assembly for bumping up the timeline for opening our new Founding Freedoms Law Center. We realized we couldn't wait any longer if we were going to help those Virginians whose religious liberty and free expression rights were in the danger of being washed away by a flood of anti-family legislation coming out of Richmond. Jim Davids, a valuable member of our board and seasoned attorney, stepped in as chief counsel along with Josh Hetzler. Because of the timely steps we took, we were able to come to the aid of Sherry Britt, director of Hope for Life, when during the pandemic, Governor Ralph Northam said that abortion could stay, but she had to go. Britt was criminally charged for allegedly violating Governor Northam's social distancing and essential business statutes. And she was just simply doing this as she was ministering to women as they were stepping in, considering an abortion. FFLC was able to convince the prosecutor to drop the unconstitutional charges before it even got into court. Since then, FFLC has been inundated. Since then, FFLC has been inundated with Virginians who are losing their rights, doctors and other healthcare professionals losing their jobs over issues of sexual identity and gender confusion. We've also experienced an onslaught of people needing the many legal resources we have available on our website. Little did I know that so soon into this endeavor, 33,000 people would visit the FFLC website just this past month to get the legal resources and find the help that they need. As secular progressives sought to steal the innocence of our children through dangerous policies in our schools, our legal team took the lead role in challenging the Virginia Department of Education when it adopted its anti-parent, anti-privacy, anti-safety transgender model policies. Thanks to their efforts, we got the court to acknowledge that these policies are merely suggested guidelines. And as such, school districts are free to reject them without penalty. And because of that ruling, many of them did just that. And in short order, FFLC will be announcing a major lawsuit against a school district that ignored our Protect Every Kid campaign and passed these harmful transgender policies. To protect students, parents, and teachers from the devastating consequences of defining male and female out of existence, FFLC will engage. Thanks to the hard work of our staff, our dedicated board, and our faithful supporters, by setting ambitious goals and making sure we moved on them at the first possible opportunity, the Family Foundation is positioned to take the fight to the progressive liberal forces that would seek to remake Virginia and make sure that they actually know that Virginia belongs not to gender-denying, God-defying, child-killing authoritarians, but to those who believe that strong, healthy, moral families are the key to a great Commonwealth social and economic prosperity today and for generations to come. Let's not kid ourselves. The work in front of us will be hard. As a baseball manager once said to his star player, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. It's the hard that makes it great. We have a great and necessary task in front of us. But with cheerful warriors working just a few blocks from this convention center and the support of the individuals in this room and in homes and communities and churches all across this Commonwealth, we will win the day. Thomas Paine once said that tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Speaking on behalf of our staff and our board, we are looking forward to sharing our glorious triumphs with you in the months and years ahead. Thank you.